The tornado ripped most of the roof off the building and collapsed the top floor. CBS 46's Sarah Parker takes a look at how tenants are now picking up the pieces.
It was just like a bomb had exploded in here.
The damage was already done by the time Evan Carnegie arrived at his loft apartment late last night. Major sections of the roof of the 104-year-old complex ripped off. Reality set in as Carnegie thought of his friends who may have been trapped inside.
I was in tears. It was because for the lives that could have been hurt here and the friends that I've grown up to know since I've been here in the 6 years that I've been here.
All tenants of the Fulton Cotton Mill lofts evacuated and accounted for, allowed in only for necessities and assistance from the Salvation Army's disaster services. Across the tracks, a few yards away, employees from Lenny's bar checked to see if the wreckage is as bad as it sounded last night.
I literally thought an airplane had crashed into the top of the building. All of the vents fell through and the AC units got sucked away.
And back out here live, this is where the tornado touched down just before it hopscotched across those tracks to the cotton mill lofts. You can see shards of wood, mangled metal, downed lines, and even an entire air duct ripped out from the house. The next step for these residents, obviously, the huge cleanup ahead, which is going to take days, if not weeks. Live in Southeast Atlanta, Sarah Parker, CBS 46 News.
And the down
46's Sarah Parker is in Blacksburg with tonight's top story.
There was a distinct shift in the mood on campus from the numb shock of yesterday. One student actually said if you didn't know what had happened, you might have thought that there was a big game today because thousands wore their Virginia Tech sweatshirts, school colors. It was a sign of solidarity and a sign that Hokie spirit will not be broken. Hope flickers with every candle, a vigil on campus to illuminate the memory of those who lost their lives in Monday's massacre.
So traumatic that it's really easy to empathize and just try to imagine like that so could have been my friends and me.
Investigators are now learning more about the gunman, Cho Sung-Wee. Cho was a senior English major here at Virginia Tech. Students described the 23-year-old South Korean native as a loner who had written violent and obscene screenplays for a creative writing class. His work set off red flags. A professor was so concerned he referred Cho to a school counselor. One of the most hopeful comments I overheard today was at the candlelight vigil. A little boy looked up at a teenager and said, "Are you a senior in high school?" And he answered, "Yes, I am. And this is where I want to go to college next year." In Blacksburg on the Virginia Tech campus, I'm Sarah Parker for CBS 46 News.
And with repairs.
Working overtime to get Cabbagetown back on its feet, from utility companies to volunteers like Ty Greenstein.
It's a very strong community here in Cabbagetown, and everybody who can is just coming up. We've been having a few meetings every day.
Friday night's tornado hopscotched through this historic community, leaving a ravaged path of destruction. You can see the pain in this woman's eyes as a massive tree trunk is removed from the center of the home she's known for 50 years. Neighbors wary of poachers, shady contractors hoping to make a buck from the vulnerable. It started as soon as the storm ended.
A bunch of freelancers came in the neighborhood. You know, they had wood loaded in their cars, and they were handing out business cards, basically hitting every single house.
Nolan Dotson's tree removal company is a family-owned business and familiar faces in Cabbagetown, but he warns not everyone has the best intentions.
People come up with prices that's just ungodly, or you know, really expensive prices, and they'll say they got all this equipment till they pull up on the job, and then they jump out of a pickup truck and go to cutting on the tree, and the people's done sign the contract, so you know they don't really pay that much attention to it.
And you're taking a live look at the house where that massive tree trunk was removed. Contractors say 90% of this house will have to be rebuilt. It's almost a total loss. And as important as homeowners insurance, make sure your contractor has insurance as well. Live in Cabbagetown, Sarah Parker, CBS 46 News.
All right, speaking of insurance.
Of course. And as CBS 46's Sarah Parker reports for us, he is taking driver's education to a new level.
When teen drivers hit the skids, they don't always know how to handle it.
You gave up on the brake to get your steering back. You got to be able to do the two things at the same time. I get them in where they're driving more than their capabilities are. That is not apparent to them until we finish this.
When they're finished, these kids will have the kind of training usually reserved for police officers, from a zigzag course to emergency stops.
Good, good, good. Get busy with the hands.
The first time or two they go through there, I have them hold their breath, and they'll whimper and they'll grip the steering wheel hard.
Alpharetta's Department of Public Safety and the Fear This driving course teaming up to make sure new drivers get behind the wheel with skill and confidence. Meg Kane turned 16 this week.
For a lot of people like myself, I have to learn by doing. You can't just tell me. I mean, I have to experience it to understand it.
Her close friend was killed in an accident last year.
He overcorrected and he hydroplaned and he ended up wrapping around a tree and died instantly.
Now she's learning to handle that exact kind of off-road recovery situation.
Let's get a little faster than about 30. There you go. See how you're doing the steering wheel there? Yeah. That's good.
Well, it's a little scary, but on the end of it, I think we're going to both be more confident in her driving skills.
For parents, it means filling in the gaps left by the average driver's ed course.
This really lets the kids know what the vehicle's capable of and what they're capable of within the vehicle, which is a huge difference between knowing the road rules and knowing how to manage the car that you're behind, because it's like a 3,000-pound bullet.
Students drive away with a more knowing eye on the road and a firmer grip on the wheel.
By the time they get through, you can see the difference.
And Fear This driving instructors have a nickname for these orange cones. They're called Little Johnny. So if you run one over, you just ran over Little Johnny, not a good thing. The course is not mandatory. The Alpharetta mayor hopes eventually it will be. It costs $150. Reporting live, Sarah Parker, CBS 46 News.
Everybody on the pontoon was yelling for help, but the wind blew the pontoon to the other dock.
Dennis Tupper heard the screams just 150 feet from his houseboat docked at the Port Royale Marina.
We had a bad storm. I mean, we probably had 40, 45 mile per hour winds.
It was after 11 Saturday night. 9 people on a rented pontoon boat like this one ran aground in the storm on their way back to the marina.
Then we started yelling, "Stay there. You're better off right there."
But Tupper says they didn't listen. He watched 2 of the men leave the safety of the beach, trying to push the pontoon back into the water. This experienced boater and strong swimmer knew the men were in trouble, but had no resources to rescue them.
We couldn't go into the water. We didn't have a boat or a runabout that we could get over there to them. I hate it. It's a tragedy.
Both men slipping under the dark and stormy lake. Search and rescue turning into recovery this morning. The missing men identified as 21-year-old Lung Mang and 23-year-old Ta Tang, both of Alpharetta.
Our divers began the search near a point of interest and shortly thereafter found these 2 individuals. They were in very close proximity to each other.
They dove last night right over them. They just couldn't find them. It's too dark.
The talk on the dock, safety issues with inexperienced boaters in dark, unfamiliar waters.
These boats should not be out on the lake at night. These are people that rent boats that do not know the lake.
We were unable to get any comment from the boat rental company, but Forsyth County Sheriff's tonight telling us the boat was fully equipped with life jackets, but no one on board was wearing one. At Lake Lanier, Sarah Parker, CBS 46 News.